So I think it's pretty clear at this point in time, when you talk about a system like the GameCube Online in the modern day, fans understand and realize the incredible library of games that was achieved in that generation of Nintendo's history. To this day, I would state that it is my favorite generation that Nintendo has ever produced in their history, other than the Switch generation that we find ourselves in today, just for the simple portability factor that I can play all the games I love on the go. But when you look back at the GameCube library, there's so many fantastic Nintendo first-party releases to look at, not to mention third-party releases that many fans want to experience today on modern hardware with modern visuals. Just the basics. Give us a 16:9 widescreen aspect ratio and make these games run in an HD resolution, and many people will be happy with that. The other part of the conversation that I see happen around GameCube games very frequently now online has to do with when will Nintendo decide to add all of these classics into Nintendo Switch Online. If you look at where we are at today, we have NES, SNES, N64, Game Boy family of systems. Logically, if you look at how these systems were added, you may speculate that next on the list is none other than the GameCube library of games. And in today's video, I want to break down and discuss a recent announcement trend around GameCube games that I believe proves what Nintendo is doing with this library before we can ever talk about it being added into NSO, and we have to get on the same page with all of those details right now. What's up, nation? Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification if you haven't already. And as mentioned, guys, today we are discussing the GameCube library of games, and more specifically, what kind of evidence we can now see that Nintendo has provided us at the last couple Nintendo Directs that may signal what the company is really doing with this classic beloved library of games. Well, you probably remember a ton of different rumors that Metroid Prime 1 was set for a remaster. This was a hotly debated topic online, some people buying into the Jeff Grubbs, Emily Rogers, and Nate the Hates of the world when they were claiming that this project is essentially done, it's ready to go, it's sitting on a shelf somewhere, and Nintendo will bring it to market, and it will likely be out by the end of 2022. And that was Jeff Grubbs specifically stating the 2022 part, and he was off on his timing. But of course, this year in 2023 at the February Nintendo Direct, we saw that beloved GameCube classic ported over as a standalone title, and it was revealed in a very specific way where it was a surprise shadow drop on the eShop. It was not a regular $60 Nintendo Switch release, but rather a standalone $40 release. And while we did see the visuals upgraded for that particular game with new textures and modern resolutions and controls, it was still sold as a one-off game and not something that Nintendo chose to add into NSO and save for NSO as if that was around the corner. And if it was around the corner for GameCube games coming into NSO, we might actually see them hold back some of these projects. And I am now convinced, following the most recent June 21st Nintendo Direct of 2023, that they have a broader plan for the future of these classic GameCube games before we can expect them to be dropped into their paid subscription service. We saw Pikmin 1 and 2, just flat out HD ports of these games that made it over in the same form of a shadow drop for the eShop that day at the Direct, and the confirmation later on that we would be getting physical releases. But the combo pack of Pikmin 1 and 2 that will be released as a physical release is not coming until September. So if you're a physical collector, you're going to be waiting well after Pikmin 4 is released to pick these up. And if you wanted to play them in order, that may be a little bit of a problem, but I think it further reinforces Nintendo's strategy with these GameCube games, that when we are approaching a big title for its latest release, that we could likely see them start to handpick games that fans of the series may want to play in lead up to its release. And I also think that this is specifically how we will see that long rumored Metroid Prime trilogy project that ultimately turned into Prime 1 still hit our Nintendo Switch consoles. But I believe that when they talk about Metroid Prime 4 in a big way at a future Nintendo Direct, similar to how we saw them do with Pikmin 4 at this direct, that maybe when that Metroid Prime 4 footage is playing, we get that follow-up announcement that Prime 2 and 3 are available on the eShop right now, and they are more of the basic HD up-res like we saw for Pikmin 1 and 2, like those rumors suggested, that only Metroid Prime 1 Remastered got the big boy quote-unquote treatment, and Prime 2 and 3 are something of a more basic HD up-res. We now have direct evidence that shows that Nintendo will bring over their GameCube games as standalone titles and in a combo pack, and just do a bare minimum HD overhaul and widescreen support, and then that's how we experience those games. I believe that there are a ton of different titles that Nintendo could continue to handpick from that library and give them the opportunity to sell on our Nintendo Switch consoles before we can safely expect GameCube to be added into Nintendo Switch Online. Historically, in September at the Nintendo Direct, we see a portion of that event take place that is dedicated to Nintendo Switch Online, and over the years, it's actually been the most likely event for new consoles to be added in, as we saw SNES and N64 both revealed at the September showcase. Then in February, that trend broke when we of course got the Game Boy family of systems. But if you're holding out hope for the GameCube to come over to NSO this year in September, I would really scale back those expectations, as I do believe that a lot of these games that we're seeing come over as standalone one-offs and ports would have been saved for the expansion pack and GameCube games being added in if that were not the case. We actually saw Nintendo do this with one of their major first-party titles quite a while back with Mario 3D All-Stars, considering that you get an N64, GameCube, and Wii Classic game all thrown into the same pack. And of course, we have Mario 64 playable on NSO, as well as that version that is on the 35th anniversary collection, but they chose to port Mario Sunshine, a mainline 3D Mario game, as part of selling that value bundle pack. And when they are in the lead up to something like the next 3D Mario and we get a trailer, but we find out we might have to wait a while for it, they could easily shadow drop something like the missing Super Mario Galaxy 2. I think that there's such a library of games between GameCube and Wii era right now that if you just give them that basic touch up and love, you can bring them over and make an individual sale off this game that will likely be far more profitable up front for Nintendo with minimal work and effort. And maybe for some of the bigger titles, they will choose to go in there and truly do a Metroid Prime 1 remastered level treatment where we see new textures added in. But I also think it stands to reason, in light of the Pikmin 1 and 2 announcement, that we could see many of the classic games come over from the GameCube era as just those straight up ports, and maybe a $30 price point each, between 30 and 40 depending on the amount of work that goes into it, or some kind of bundle pack presentation like Pikmin 1 and 2 where you get them together for essentially $25 each or $50 total retail. I think that that's what we see Nintendo stick to for these games. We have some outstanding rumors like F-Zero GX HD. Whether or not that comes over at any point in time remains to be seen, but according to leaks and rumors, it is a real project, and it's just a matter of when. And does Nintendo maybe reveal a brand new F-Zero game to us first and promote it, then at the same direct shadow drop the fact that you can now play F-Zero GX HD as a standalone purchase option on the eShop right now at the September Direct? Anything is possible here, but we are now seeing something of a trend with recent presentations from the Big N that they are okay with giving the love to these titles and reselling them to us. And that's where I kind of want to tackle that conversation once again. Don't expect GameCube games on Nintendo Switch Online on current hardware. I do truly believe that that is something that will likely be reserved for the launching point, maybe for the Switch 2. Maybe we do get it out of the gate with Nintendo Switch Online 2.0 or whatever they brand it. We know that Nintendo Switch Online will roll forward to the next generation console, because Nintendo has confirmed that themselves with that infamous investor slide stating that Nintendo account and value added services tied to the accounts will roll forward to new future generations. But what's a really easy way to get everybody to renew their memberships or sign up for the first time on your new hardware when you're trying to get it off to the strongest start possible? It's probably like giving us all of our favorite GameCube library of games playable on NSO version 2.0 on the next Nintendo console. And that's when I personally believe that we will see those beloved classics finally make it over. We will also likely see the heavily rumored Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD sold to us at some point individually before we see them added into Nintendo Switch Online. At least I certainly hope that's the case, because if they are added onto NSO, then it might be a situation where we're getting the lesser versions of those games. But I do believe that those could be reserved for that kind of launch window, new game lineup for next gen Nintendo Switch hardware. But obviously that's all up in the air at this point in time. There's other games out there in the rumor mill, speculation talk. Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, I now think we're way further off with the recent announcement of the Mario RPG remake, but you can never rule out anything with Nintendo at the end of the day. But I do think it's interesting that we now have a clear trend of what they are currently doing with GameCube games and how they are positioning it to us as standalone resell titles as opposed to saving everything for the NSO route. But I really want to hear from you guys at this point in the video what you think Nintendo will ultimately do with GameCube games at the end of the day. Do you think that, yes, indeed, we are in a trend situation now where GameCube games could be shadow dropped the day of Directs and playable at those presentations in the eShop, and then they do the physical release later on? Do you think that the situation with Metroid Prime 1 Remastered and Pikmin 1 and 2 are just one-offs, and they really are saving the rest of the GameCube library to come over as part of the next NSO update, and maybe we could see it on this gen's hardware? And lastly, what GameCube classics do you want to see playable the most on modern Nintendo console hardware today? So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, which is on screen right now. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.